stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Amen.
It's fast.
I noticed we had staff comments.
I gotta call the roll real quick.
Okay.
Maria Mills-Benet.
Here.
Bo Bophamy.
I'm here.
Tom Jordan.
Here.
Lance Green.
Is here.
Newton White.
Here.
Stan Schmidt. Chair John Junko.
Here. Okay. So, the staff comments are relating to anything in particular?
Says staff comments, number 2 on the agenda.
Yeah.
Says it again on number 9.
Agenda that we got to use using our new software program.
This is the glitch.
There was a glitch then. Basically, the staff comments were at
Yeah,
the
I'm
end for a
caught up.
presentation then. There was a glitch in us
Okay.
trying to figure that out on a Friday afternoon then.
All right, so we're going to check off,
Thank you.
we're going to carry that to the end, I guess.
It is
Yes, we
also
are.
then.
Oh, there it is. It's on number 9 again. Okay, good. Okay, we got the roll call. Okay, consideration of minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Maria Mills-Benet.
Yes.
Bo Bophamy.
Yes.
Tom Jordan.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Chair John Junko.
Yes. Okay, first, we have case number 21-900000001. Variance for 3681 South Clyde Morris Boulevard. A request by the applicant for a variance from Chapter 15, Section 3B18 of the Land Development Code to allow off-site signage.
About Max.
Hi, good evening, Penelope Cruz, Planning. So the staff report went over all the detailed criteria for the variance, so I'm just going to kind of cut to the chase. The bottom line is that there's a shared access drive between the Newport commercial subdivision and the Newport apartments. And one of the main access ways into the apartments is through this shared access drive. It's a multi-family development, the Newport commercial subdivision. So there's going to be there's a proposed multi-tenant monument sign already proposed in the location that's covered in the staff report. So the ask tonight is to be able to have one of those tenant panels advertise the Newport apartments. It's technically considered off-site signage, which is currently not allowed by the Land Development Code. But the sign of what's allowed in the Land Development Code as far as the multi-tenant sign is going to go there regardless. So it would be designed to meet the standards of a multi-tenant monument sign. They're just asking to be able to use one of the 5 panels that are allowed to advertise the apartments. This would help vehicles traveling north on Clyde Morris to be able to better identify that access way into the apartments and reduce trips through the intersection and on Reed Canal Road. So because of that, staff is recommending approval and is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, let's start with you, Lance.
Okay, so I'm confused about the actual lots. I mean, so lot 1 is a 7-Eleven, right?
Yes.
Lot 2 is
The multi-tenant.
part of the Jimmy John's
Yes.
and the Dunkin' Donuts and
Yes.
and all that. So is lot 5 not developed then?
Lot 3, 4, and 5 are not developed yet. There's an approved site plan for Lot 3, but they haven't moved forward. They've just extended their development order. They haven't actually moved to the phase of actually scheduling a pre-construction meeting and moving towards development. But Lot 5, Lot 3, and 4 are currently vacant.
What size sign do they have on Reed Canal now?
For the apartments?
Yeah,
It's the standard
they
monument
have the
sign.
full-size sign.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a sign also going out onto Rochelle Drive? or
No, they are permitted to have one, but they're choosing not to because that's an emergency only access, so there's no need really for a sign there. They just have a gate that has a Knox locks there for fire and police as an emergency.
So the sign that you got in this, depicted in this picture is only for 2 lots though, correct?
It's for the subdivision.
It's for lot 3 and 4.
It would be Technically, according to the property owner, they'd like to focus mostly on lot 5 because the other lots have their own monument signs, but it's, the overall subdivision is permitted to have a multi-tenant monument sign as well.
Okay. That's all I got down
Newton?
So, no second sign, this is just taking up a panel of the existing sign, it's not adding anything to it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
Yes, my only question is, doesn't change the size of this, the plan sign, and it doesn't change the number of panels?
They just want one of the panels to be able to be used for them.
Yep, thank you.
Oh,
Nope, no questions.
Maria?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. The applicant, well, I have no real questions. It makes sense where it's going to be located. And it is one of those rare cases for easement. So everything looks pretty straightforward. Does the applicant, is he here? Does he want to say anything? Sure.
He doesn't get paid till he has to speak.
Billable hours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jeff Brock, 444 Seabreeze Boulevard, Suite 900, Daytona Beach, Florida, representing the applicant Collier Apartments. I don't have a lot to add besides what Penny had mentioned. Again, just stressing the sign's not any bigger. There's not any more panels than what's allowed currently under the code. Maybe a little background would be helpful, is that both the apartment complex site and this 5-lot subdivision were owned by the same developer at one point, Ken McGurn out of Gainesville. He split off the apartment complex and developed that separately because there used to be a landfill there, and for other reasons, not having all the title in the same entity. So in their mind, they kind of view this as one project, and so that's why the shared access. And so the other point I'd like to make is, you want the land development code and any variances to kind of encourage good behavior and best practices as far as development. So having this shared access does relieve the intersection, as Penny mentioned. We're not asking for any more panels, just neighbors sharing a panel site with a property behind it. That's all we're asking for today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody in the public would like to come up and say anything in regards to this? No? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve 21-900-001.
Second.
All right, can I get a roll call?
Further discussion?
Oh, do you want a discussion on it?
I do, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
but
sure.
yeah.
It's not the Waffle House
I just
sign,
think
you're
that
right.
here's a situation, no, again, it's gonna go right back to my beef. This sign's too big. These signs are too big for what we're doing. We are dominating now this entryway with a 9-foot tall, 9-foot wide sign. And we're gonna create a sign for the apartments. I understand the access and I like the access, but we're smothering these entrances with these huge signs, and I just think I'm not against the sign, I'm not against the panel, but I'm against the size of these signs that we're letting get put up. And I just feel like this is another example where we're overpowering the front of the road with signage. That's all I got.
Noon, do you have anything to add? No? Tom?
I'm good.
But to Lance's point, this is not a new sign for them. This is taking advantage of an existing sign. Is that what your objection is?
Well, my objection to the size of them, period. I mean, this is just as big as the one that's in front of a Publix.
Okay, I see. All right, thank you.
Maria?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm sorry, we did have a motion already, and we did have a second.
Correct.
Okay, so we can go for a roll call now.
Maria Mills Benet,
Yes.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Tom Jordan,
Yes.
Lance Green,
No.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chair John Junko.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next case, number 20-4000005. A request to approve the 7th Amendment to the Bennett's Hammock Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan.
Gwen Perney, planner. The applicant is requesting a 7th amendment to the Bennett's Hammock PUD to change the permitted use on the property from nursing home, ALF, elderly housing, to townhomes and to set up the framework to develop the property as a 13-unit townhome subdivision. The subject property is located along the south side of Old Hammock Road, north of Herbert Street, west of Nova. Bennett's Hammock subdivision was originally divided into 5 tracts. Tract 1 was to be multifamily. It's since been amended in the MDA to allow for single family. Tract 2 is single family. Tract 3 was a nursing home, and it was later amended to include the ALF and elderly housing. Tract 4 retention, and then Tract 5 was to be multifamily, and it's since been amended to be single family. Currently, Tract 3 would be allowed to accommodate up to 22 ALF units or 44 beds, and that's based on the maximum density allowed of 12 units per acre, and the property is now 1.84 acres. The current zoning on the property is PUD, which was originally intended to provide for a variety of housing choices within that subdivision. Since then, the PUD has been amended for tracts 1 and 5 to allow single family. So now we're just down to single family, and then tract 3, which is the ALF property. Bennett's Hammock currently has a future land use of urban high density residential, future land use of 16 units per acre. Original overall density for Bennett's Hammock was 8 units per acre, but since has decreased due to those changes to single family. The MBA currently allows 12 units per acre. On tract 3, the applicant's request of 13 townhomes would decrease the maximum density on that property to 7 units per acre, and the decrease in density would be more consistent with the remainder of Bennett's Hammock and the surrounding properties. The overall development plan, the proposed 7th Amendment sets up the framework for the development of the 13-unit townhome subdivision with associated subdivision improvements, including the building footprints and setbacks, access and parking, buffers and tree preservation areas, stormwater retention and easements. The general layout of the property is the 3 townhome buildings that front onto the access driveway. The units will be subdivided into individual lots, and then there's open space and common area around the lots so they don't directly abut the property lines, and then the existing ditch and pond on the property are not proposed to be modified. The dimensional requirements for the proposed 7th Amendment, with the PUD zonings, the code requires the PUDs to provide the dimensional requirement that's closest to the development that's being proposed. So in this case, they're generally following the R3L and PCA attached home zoning district requirements with deviations for maximum lot coverage and minimum open space and reduced rear yard building setback. Each lot contains a 2-story townhome unit, including a single car garage, double car driveway, an entry walk, rear patio, and AC pad. And these improvements, impervious improvements, take up 80% of the lot, leaving only 20% open space. In R3L zoning, which is the standard low-density multifamily zoning, 40% maximum building coverage is required and 60% open space. However, if you max out to the 40% maximum building coverage, it doesn't leave room for additional impervious areas such as driveways, patios, etc. So the amendment increases the maximum building coverage to 60%, and then the overall impervious to 80% to allow for those additional lot improvements that you normally see on a dwelling. The reduced rear yard building setback is being requested. In front of the home, there's a 28-foot long driveway being proposed, which shifts the unit back more towards the back of the lot to then only have a 15-foot rear yard building setback, which if we go back, it shows basically the rear yard is either going to abut the required landscape buffer or the pond. The applicant states because more common open space and common area is being provided than required, the increase in building coverage and reduction in individual lot open space and building setback is justified. If this was being developed as a just a site plan instead of a fee simple subdivision, they would be able to meet that building coverage and open space requirement of the 40/60. There would only be 15% building coverage and then the 64% open space. The applicant states development with fee simple lots is to attract buyers who want to own property but are looking for a home with less yard maintenance. Traffic, access, and parking. Again, access to the property is along Old Hammock Road, which is public right-of-way and connects to Herbert Street. Overall, the proposed amendment will reduce or be comparable to the number of daily trips to and from the property compared to the existing permitted use of ALF or senior housing. In general, Herbert Street has capacity to support the trips generated by the townhome development, and the city is currently looking at possible improvements to the intersection of Herbert Street and Nova to improve the capacity at that intersection, such as extending or adding turn lanes. Parking is being provided per the LDC for townhomes. Townhomes are required to provide 2 spaces for 2, 3, or more bedroom units, as well as 0.25 visitor spaces per unit. Each unit will provide 3 spaces on each lot, 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway, for a total of 39 spaces, and then 6 additional visitor spaces in the common area. The project will be served by the 24-foot wide access driveway, and that'll be private and privately maintained in lieu of the public 50-foot wide right-of-way. The 24-foot wide access drive is being designed to be the same as what would be required for a 50-foot wide right-of-way. The difference is that they would not have the parkage and the sidewalk on each side like you normally see. So that is a policy issue, is to allow the 24-foot wide private access drive in lieu of the 50-foot wide public right-of-way, and also to waive the requirement for the 4-foot wide sidewalk on each side. Due to the relatively short length of the drive and consistent with there's no sidewalks on the existing streets within the subdivision, Meditation Loop and Little Garden. And then on Tract 5, there was when that PUD was amended for Tract 5 for the single family homes, the sidewalk requirement was waived for that. The proposed development will comply with the landscaping and tree preservation requirements in the LDC, including perimeter buffers and tree conservation easements. On the slide here, basically the green area is either going to be landscape buffer or area left natural, and then including the tree preservation areas. They're proposing a new stormwater pond to serve the townhome development. There's an existing 25-foot wide drainage and utility easement along the south that's maintained by the city, and that will remain with an additional easement over it. And then they will not utilize the pond that's existing to the east of the property. And then city utilities are available to site currently. The MDA requires architecture to meet the requirements in the LDC. In general, the townhomes are proposed to be 2-story and will be required to be compatible with the existing homes in the subdivision. Volusia County Schools reviewed the application and determined the 13 townhomes would generate 2 students. And then on the screen here is a list of policy issues that are being requested by the applicant. So staff is recommending approval of the 7th Amendment to the Bennett's Hammock PUD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan, subject to recommendation of approval of the policy issues as discussed.
Okay. You want to start with you, Maria?
Where to begin? You know, the biggest issue for me is something we always talk about, traffic. And when you're going from an ALF to townhomes, that's going to generate a lot more traffic. ALF people aren't driving around as much as
Please keep your comments to yourself while we have
people in the townhomes. The people in the townhomes are going to be driving. They're going to be in and out, in and out, in and out. ALF people aren't going to be doing that. So to me, it's traffic, and they say Herbert could withstand, but I've driven down Herbert, and I don't say it can withstand. So that's my biggest issue. I don't really have any questions.
Bo?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Why would the density go from 12 to 13? Why would it increase? It went from an ALF with 12 units to
No.
townhomes with 13.
No, the density on the property is the units per acre. It's 12
Well, I
units per
mean,
acre.
I'm sorry.
So basically, they would be allowed to have, currently, they'd be allowed to have up to 22 units or 44 beds if they're going to an ALF.
So it was not maximum at the 12 is what you're saying. They could have had more units for the ALF.
They're dropping down to 7 units an acre for the 13 units proposed.
Well,
They're not you're not utilizing the maximum density that's allowed right now.
all right, well, I'm at the end of the crowd here. I'm trying to catch up. So we had 12 units before
Per
No,
acre.
Per acre.
in track 3.
So basically, if they wanted to maximize
I'm
what's
talking
currently
about track
allowed.
3 now.
For track 3, for what's currently allowed, if they wanted to maximize and do the townhomes, maximize the amount of townhomes that they could have for the 22 units an acre, it would
Right.
it would be 22 units instead of 13, but they're only requesting 13, so it's only 7
Right.
units per acre.
And I don't understand the density. We're talking about, what, 8 units for the single family per acre? Is that correct?
18 to 16.
No,
No?
we're talking
Okay.
about the density for track 3, right?
I don't know. I know what I'm reading here. And single family homes, track 2. Thought we had 8 units per acre.
When the PUD was approved originally, it was approved as a whole subdivision at 8 units per acre.
Uh-huh.
Since then, it's gone down to, I think it's roughly 6. However, if this amendment was approved, it dropped down even further to 4.28.
Okay, well, only thing I can compare this to is something that I know well over on Taylor Road on Fern Park Drive. The maximum density that we could have there was 4, that was allowed. This is indicating that we're gonna have more density. Is there a difference there?
No, it's a decrease in density. They're going from, what's allowed now is 12 units per acre
On this property?
for track 3.
Okay,
What's allowed now is 12 units per acre. They're asking to go down to 7 units per acre.
okay, well, that's all I have.
Okay.
Tom?
Yeah, Penny, let me ask, so, I'm sorry, Gwen. Sorry about that.
Force of habit.
Yeah, really. Can you tell me about the roadway, the paved area versus the curbs? What are the curbs? What are the differences? Is that a raised curb?
Well, it'll be like a they call it environmental curb or Miami curb. It's the ones. It's not like a. Yes,
It's
flat.
flat. Curb.
Flat curb. So it'd
So
be.
it's the same level as the paved roadway, but it's not paved.
It is paved. The pavement, the driveway's going to be paved. The curb's going to be paved. Concrete. Asphalt.
Okay,
You know, just like it'll be like a normal street.
but it's not.
But the only difference between this private street and the public street is they won't have the parkage and they won't have the sidewalk. That's normally included in the 50-foot wide right-of-way.
Right.
In addition to what's normally allowed by code is the 20 feet and then the 2 feet of curb on either side, or the 22 feet and 1 foot of curb on either side.
Okay.
Is what's built in every subdivision. It's just that they won't have that extra, you know how when the curb ends, there's a grass area and then the sidewalk. They won't have that grassed area and then the sidewalk,
Right. No sidewalks.
is what's being proposed.
Okay. Is part of lots 7 and 8, are those in what's right now designated as a wetland?
Currently there's a wet land there, that they would be impacting. They're proposing that they would be mitigating those. Their biologists went out on site and determined that it's an isolated wetland and there's exotic vegetation in there, that it doesn't make it function like a healthy wetland. So they would need to mitigate those requirements.
What does that mean?
There's a wetland mitigation bank they have to do through the county that they would pay to, essentially.
So they take part of this wetlands, but they pay money into another area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And most of the common area, it looks like is going to be, is that a wet pond? Or it's going to be an actual pond? Or is it dry?
It'll be a wet pond from my understanding. And the project engineer and applicant are here to answer
Oh,
technical
okay. Oh,
questions
cool.
if you have those.
Alrighty. That's my question.
Okay. Newton?
Okay, track number 4 that has the retention area on it, that's gonna stay.
Correct.
And are they gonna enlarge that retention area?
They're not proposing
Right.
to touch the pond.
And then track number 5, what is the future plan for track 5?
What's currently allowed in the PUD on that is single family. I think it's 18 units maximum of single family detached.
And that's what's currently single family detached. So we're going to put how many units in track 3 is what they're asking for?
13.
13. So we're going to put 13 units in track 3 and only 18 in track 5 eventually. Housing units, front doors.
That's what could be built, yes.
And this was going to be a nursing home or a assisted living facility that would have, how many residents was it?
They could have, if it was like independent living, like just basically age restricted apartments, it'd be 22 units. If they went to like a ALF where you have maybe a couple beds in one room, it'd be a maximum of 44.
So with an ALF type facility, you would have 20 some odd people. You would have the staff. You'd have medical professionals coming and going throughout the day. Service companies coming and going throughout the day. Because really, an assisted living facility is almost is really a commercial concern. In my mind, it is. So I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. That we're actually increasing the population and the travel density on this tract with this change.
It'd be a decrease.
Well, I understand
It's just
how
not
you're
developed.
counting it, but I'm understanding how I count it and how people that I answer to in the community count it, that more is more in reality than sometimes it is on paper. Because in reality, we're not counting all of the people that's going to come and go every day to take care of those people that are there. It's not like they get up and drive out once a day and come home once a day. There's caretakers, there's medical professionals coming and going all the time. I kind of like keeping the density lower, and I think that having, the school board said they're only expecting 2 new students out of the units. I don't know about that, because I know that people with kids often buy 2-story houses, and people without them often buy single-story houses. It's just an observation. Because I sell houses and I know what people ask for. So I have a difficulty. I believe that this is increasing the density. It's increasing how many people are going to live in our community overall, and how many people are going to come and go by adding more single-family residences than something that's going to be more static. And we can't leave it, just to be clear, something's going to go there. It's not going to be palmettos and oak trees and stuff forever. Something's gonna go there. So the difficulty up here is to choose which, at this point, makes the least impact to the community. And that's what I'm debating up here, so, thank you.
Lance?
Now, I kind of echo what Newton's saying, and again, I'm not looking at the numbers the way Newton's looking at them. I want to go with what's the least invasive, the least amount of traffic, the least amount of density. I mean, it's the least amount of trips. That's what I need to, to see here. And I'm on the other end. I think an ALF creates more traffic than a single-family home. Myself, I'm just, like you said, you
I'm
got
not sure
doctors
which,
and people
because-
and caretakers, and you're talking about a lot of people in and out
Yeah.
on shifts of 8-hour shifts versus, but
I
again,
usually
like I
work
said,
12s,
but with them taking this down in density and only allowing 13 units on here, I think that's about as low as you're gonna get. But, so, I'll come back after the applicant.
Okay. I'm very familiar with this property because I tried to buy it a number of years ago.
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with this property. And correct me, but nobody's mentioned next to track 3 directly, I guess, to the east, isn't that an abandoned nursing home in disarray that's tried to be a nursing home and it wasn't successful? And I did an estimate to renovate it from the owner, and the quote was literally $500,000 just to get it in working shape. Windows are broken, it's abandoned, the roof leaks, it's in disarray, and it's a nursing home. It's hiding in the corner, teenagers are going in there, I read the police reports. So I know, as a nursing home, that is not a profitable area. It was a nursing home, and it failed. Now, my thought was, okay, fine, if you're gonna turn it into something that blends in with the community, I almost mirrored what this application was applying for, because I thought it stood within the confines of how this neighborhood was developing. And the fact that this is a dead-end road kind of, that leads to the nursing home that's abandoned, it's just, it doesn't look to me like the nursing home is an option. That's why I did like what's being presented here, because it is showing a creative way to be less density and to also rather blend in with the neighborhood better. So, bear that in mind, because I don't think, they should have mentioned that there's an abandoned nursing home there. It's been in disarray for years. It's awful. It's an awful place, okay? And I don't want to see that happen again. If it stays, and why this is, I know it happened a while ago, and I know the zoning has changed, but it is zoned in that area for assisted care, but it's not working there. Okay, how many nursing homes have you heard in Port Orange that have gone under? This one has. So anyway,
Could have been bad business.
that's what I have to say about that.
Applicant's here.
The applicant, I'd like to hear the applicant.
Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask you one more question? You said that the traffic, the number of trips goes down.
Mhm.
Help me understand that. Because to me, I'm with Newton. To me, a home with a family generates more traffic than an AFLF is gonna generate. So I want to understand why you're saying it's going down.
So based on the, we use a trip generation manual, basically, that does nationwide study about how many trips can be generated by any type of unit, commercial development, whatever it is. So based on their rates, the 13 unit townhomes would be about 57 trips a day. And then if we were going with more of an independent living type of, just basically age restricted apartments, it's about 63 trips a day. And then assisted living, of course, goes up because of the additional commercial traffic. And some ALFs have a mix of people that can still drive, people that don't drive at all. So they use those models to estimate how many trips can come from one unit. I think for townhomes, it's about 5 trips a day maybe that can come from
Per unit.
Per unit.
Mhm.
Has anybody ever studied these models? I mean, actually in our community to see if what the model says actually pans out to what we generate in traffic?
It's a nationwide, every
I
city.
didn't ask in the nation, I said in our community.
Yes.
Has anybody ever verified that these models hold true to our community?
You're the big boss up now.
Thank you, Gwen.
We do not have the staff nor the resources to go out to every community in Port Orange to basically sit there for 24 hours and do these studies that they do here. That's why as an average, basically, when you look at homes, yes, in some cases, for a single family home, it's 9 trips. In some cases, the one home might only go 2 or 3 times. The next time, they might go 14 times. It's an average. It's basically what we have to go for then. And that's what we use and apply in these situations. The guidelines that the city is part of with the Transportation Planning Organization, which is a county organization, we all basically follow those guidelines. The TIA guidelines, we also follow the IT manual. So we basically comply with kind of the regional way of looking at traffic. And those are the numbers, the best numbers that we have. It's updated usually every 2 to 3 years. The numbers do change based on the study. So this is not a study from 1985. It's every edition. I think we're on a 10th edition. So those numbers are updated, and like we said, nationwide, it does use various communities. Every time they're breaking it down, that's why in the report there's actually the single adult or the senior adult multifamily category that has recently added, because we are seeing more ALFs go with independent living, where the seniors have their own apartment. Essentially, there's one person maintaining it, and they are constantly driving basically just like a normal multifamily. So that was in there, and that actually shows, about the same amount of trips to this project then. So, but we do not have, the staff nor resources to go estimate every project in Port
I
Orange.
did not expect that you would. I was just more or less pointing out that it's a national average survey. It's not hyper-local. It's not local to us. And what we experience may be different from what the manual says, but we're stuck with using the manual. I do understand that.
Are you ready for the applicant?
I am.
Okay.
Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the applicant. And a lot of what you guys are hitting on, I understand and I get it. I understand the concerns, and these folks, they care very much about their community, and I get it. Trying to work with them, trying to see what we can do to make it better, because I think there's still some miscommunication here on, and I'll hit them in a row here. Traffic. The manual we're talking about is, it's, besides not necessarily being as local as maybe one would like, it's authoritative. It's traffic engineers that spend their life putting together this manual to give people guidance on what the traffic generation is. And using the most recent edition of that manual, it's lower. This is a lower traffic generator. It doesn't even fall in the average if you take the tail end, because what we didn't hear is, in an ALF, we're talking 114 trips versus the 57 that we're talking about for the townhomes. And I get it may not be an ALF, as I think the chair had identified that, that's not to say that in the future it couldn't be, because as you can see that there's a growing need for them, and that something that may have not worked before may work again. But at the same time, we're talking about a trip generation that doesn't even fall into the hypothetical averages of where the lowest intense use is currently versus the most intense use currently. And there may be some practical concerns about that, and I understand. And part of the concern is, how many people are coming in and out of a townhome. I was just talking to the residents earlier, and I said, look, if we're talking 2 to 3 bedroom townhomes, that's where we're at. I'm happy to stipulate to that. I don't want a 4-bedroom townhome. I'm sure that calculation was based on, in some respects, a 4-bedroom townhome, and I'm happy to stipulate to that to make let's bring that number even lower, because I get it. They don't want to deal with this traffic either, and it's making the best of a situation, because I'm sure we don't want to be here late, in the future where somebody decides that an ALF's a nice idea to try again, and then we have a very dense development in something that could be a very nice townhome community. The other part to this too is, I think some of the things we hit on were, we're trying to condense this to, part of what people are looking for now. They're trying to find those townhomes that are lower maintenance. I'm sure that this is something you guys have heard, that, you know, you can still maintain the same quality because we're still giving the same open space, the same tree preservation that would otherwise be required, and that's the goal. And we don't want to connect to their pond. You know, it's the pond for the development as contemplated originally, but we can accommodate our stormwater on site. So we don't need to connect to that pond because part of what I'm hearing from these folks is that drainage is an issue for them, not a problem. I'm happy to, you know, try to connect and try to make a site plan that works for their neighborhood. The other thing I heard was density. Just to clarify and make sure we're all on the same page, it is 12 units per acre, and it just depends on how you do that calculation. You know, originally when this plot was originally tract 3, it was 2.5 acres, which times 12 gets you to what we were talking about in terms of potentially 60 rooms, or about 60 rooms in. Somehow we lost some acreage over the decades, so we're not working with 2.5, but the density is based on 12, and 13 allows us goes to 7, which creates an even lower density for the overall Bennett's hammock than what it was originally contemplated, or even what it originally was today. The other part was the wetland. The wetland, it's isolated, it's nasty, it doesn't function, and it's got invasive species. That's not something you want. And yes, you do pay into a mitigation bank, which offsets other wetland areas that have been preserved, and then there's also that contribution you have to make to buy that credit. So there's a net benefit for everybody to try to get rid of this invasive wetland that's encroaching. At the same time, you're preserving other areas of the county that can function normally, and it is part of a bigger system. And I think other than that, you know, the misconception with this is, I don't want to say that an ALF can't be a bad neighbor. They can. But again, if it's a function of traffic, that's a bad neighbor. I mean, I don't know how to say that in any other way, even though they can be very nice and not have traffic, but they have commercial vehicles coming in and back and forth, and I imagine that the folks that are there are not going to leave as often. But again, those are things that are contemplated. You know, these are why these manuals exist. But either way, I want to work with these folks because they care passionately about their community. I get it. I want to make sure this is the best thing for them, something that is consistent with their community architecturally. If there's things I can do for them, I'm happy to. And that's the real goal, because they, you know, at the neighborhood meeting, there was a very lengthy discussion trying to hash out a lot of this, and that discussion is going to continue. That just doesn't stop here. So I want to reassure you guys that we are working towards trying to make something that works for them, and they've been very nice and very accommodating. So I at least want to applaud them for that, because you can imagine that, you know, some neighbors get very riled up and and that, you know, sometimes the passions take over. So I'm here to answer any questions from you guys. If there's something I can clarify, we have the engineer. If there's any specifics as to the development or how, maybe something we could do better, we're happy to answer any questions. And, you know, we're here to work with everybody. So, you know, we'll be available.
Okay, do you have any Lance, you have any questions?
No.
Newton? Tom?
Yeah, on page 12 of this document tonight, it mentions down in one of the, fourth paragraph, it talks about the common area and amenities. What amenities are you guys including?
Oh, well, besides the common open space and the overflow parking, that's really what we're after.
Okay.
There's, you know, it's such a small development that, you know, it's cost prohibitive to do anything beyond something that's more open space and trying to give people a place to park. If this was a bigger site, you know, you'd see something, something nicer, maybe a clubhouse or something. But you only got.
Well, I presume there must be something of
right.
In a common area.
You're kind of limited.
Apparently, that's it. Okay. And most of the common area appears to be just the retention pond.
I don't know that calculation offhand, but that is how the common area calculation is calculated. So.
Okay.
And that's consistent with the code too. So in any development, that'd be the case.
Okay, thanks.
Bo?
Just for clarity,
Sure.
if this application wasn't approved, what would happen there?
Well, somebody could come in with a site plan and build a 44-bedroom ALF. That's end of discussion.
Okay.
Or a combination of an assisted living, independent living type use, and that's really where it ends. And then it's simply, do you meet city code?
As opposed to what
Correct.
you have here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all I have.
Maria?
44 bed or 220? I thought it was 22 bed.
Well, it's 22,
Got
it's
it.
22 units, but it's 44 bed.
Got it.
Depending on the
Okay.
type of use you're talking about.
I
I
don't
was
have
going
any-
with the maximum,
Thank you.
to run the hypothetical.
I don't have any other questions.
No, I think my colleagues basically said the same thing that I was interested in, and again, I could talk for hours on this topic, but no, we're good.
Okay, understood.
I'm going to no, I'm going to probably take people from the public. Let me stress some rules here, okay? You have 3 minutes for when you come up to the podium. You will state your name and your address. Once you do that, you have 3 minutes. If the person, after you go, if the person, another person goes up after, do not repeat the same material over and over again. We're not here for 2 hours to listen to the same people say the same things. If your material is different, if you have a valid point that's independent of the prior person or anyone else, please, we'd love to hear everything, all right? So at this point, I'm open for anyone in the public that'd like to come up. Please come up and give us your name and address.
Thank you very much for letting us have this time. My name is Laurel Bouchard. I live at 1118 Meditation Loop, which is the loop that starts from Old Hammock, goes around the development, comes back onto Old Hammock. When you look at the map where they have all the roads, okay, when you come off of Herbert onto Old Hammock, there is a curve right there. That is a blind curve. If you want, I have pictures where you cannot see from either direction. I nearly hit someone in the evening because of that blind curve, okay? So that is an issue for safety reasons. At the dead end, it is entirely dark. There are no lights at that end where you mentioned with the abandoned nursing home. That is currently, we understand that the owner is doing some things, needs to bring it up to code, and wants to then reestablish that, not as a nursing home, but wants to have individual units there. So there is work being done on that. If that is not accomplished, absolutely, that is an eyesore, but it is also dangerous for the new community as well as the current community. Miss April will attest that there has been sex going on back there, drugs, all kinds of nefarious activity that we don't want. We are on the 2 students. If 2 students per home is in there, there is now traffic. There's 2 schools there. There's the middle school right there on Herbert, and then there's Silver Creek Elementary School. There are times where it is impossible to get onto Herbert from Old Hammock at this time. Impossible. When there was rain, it took us 2 hours to get from that middle school on Herbert to my house. 2 hours. Okay, so the sidewalk that you mentioned that is currently there needs to be maintained, and it ends just right at that property that for the abandoned nursing home. So there's really not enough traffic for students to walk. And again, it is dangerous from there. And then I'm concerned about trash and recycling at the new development. There was some in the back of that new development. They had blocked off some waste receptacles, but traffic for the waste people to get in there, get that done and safely. Again, we're talking about safety issues. Those are my concerns. I hope that you hear them. I hope that you help us remediate against these. As you agree, something needs to go in there. We'd love to have open space, but I believe my 3 minutes is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And those are all valid points. Who's next? State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Stephen Benz, 1122 Meditation Loop. Been a resident there for 28 years. I think I speak for a lot of the citizens. Herbert can't take on the traffic. Between that, I think as Maria said, there's also a 60 unit development going in across on Herbert Street west of the Circle K. The applicant told the residents that the current ALF would allow 60 to 61 beds, as we just discussed, 44 at maximum density. 13 townhomes, if we say an average family of 4 resides in there, that's 52 people. Traffic's the biggest issue, as I just stated. The prices that the attorney said that the houses would go for just don't match what's currently in there. It's well above it. So I don't think that necessarily fits in. The stormwater runoff, we all live in Port Orange. We've all been privy to a bunch of hurricanes. There's no way that that small retention pond is not going to overflow into the current retention pond that's there. Don't see how that can happen. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through my notes.
You got a minute and a half. Yeah, are you representing other people?
I believe I speak for the majority. I was asked to come
I'll
up.
let you go over 3 minutes.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
okay, all right? Don't worry. Go slower, take your time, get your points across.
There's also lighting that needs to be upgraded. I know the blind curve was talked about, but at night it's next to impossible to see. So that's a safety issue, especially if kids are going to be walking to school. Planned improvements to Meditation Loop, which is a private roadway. I've talked to the attorney, trying to work through that. He seems to be willing to do some of that. That was one concern that the neighbors had. The existing trees, I believe their plan's only to leave 2 existing trees on that entire property that are currently there, I believe is what we talked about. And I believe that's all. I went through all my notes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, please, by all means. State your name and address, please.
My name is Donald Strawn. I live at 1110 Little Garden Circle, which is the first cul-de-sac in the neighborhood. I've lived there also for 28 years. There's numerous residents in this neighborhood that have lived there 28, 35 plus years. What you guys are talking about doing is going to destroy our entire livelihood. It's that simple. Okay, the traffic is the number one issue. It doesn't need to be restated. There's a new apartment complex going in, and like this gentleman stated at our meeting, if he were to have a medical emergency early in the morning or in the mid-afternoon, he's a dead man. Okay, the traffic is already impossible to get to, like from either direction, and you would not be able to get emergency vehicles into our neighborhood, period. You add any more people into our neighborhood, it's overflowing. It just is. We are at max capacity as it is. On top of that, the drainage. I'm not sure if anybody else is aware, but all of Brandy Hills, all of their drainage drains directly through our neighborhood. It drains through that back canal on the back of this property into our retention pond, through another canal, through another piece of property, through all of our retention ponds, all the way to Nova Road. I have personally called the city myself numerous times over numerous years that in the rainy season, that lake floods into the street. It does not drain properly. We have never gotten any help for it whatsoever. On top of that, you're going to displace tons of animals. Like, I mean, we're talking about like poisonous coral snakes, rabbits, raccoons, all sorts of things back into our neighborhood. If you turn this into 3-4 bedroom townhouses, those could end up being Airbnbs. Those could end up being rented out to God knows who. It won't be necessarily homeowners. It won't necessarily be people that you can trust. This will be bring in crime. It will bring in more problems than we already have. And no matter what you do, like now, if you were to turn it into a single dwelling, like if one person were to purchase that piece of property and put a house on it, that would be fine. That would work. But the idea of bringing in 44 extra families plus their extended family, or bringing in townhomes with their friends or family, that road is literally a single lane road, one way in, one way out. I live on that blind corner. It is a miracle that we haven't had multiple deaths at that corner in the 28 years. Like, I mean, I just don't see how it's feasibly possible for anyone that isn't just trying to make a buck to come in there and say that they're trying to help us out or make our lives better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir. Come on up. State your.
Speak from here.
Can the mic
Can
hear
y'all
them?
hear me?
I can hear him.
I just have one comment that I would like to make.
Your name and address,
My
sir.
name is Jim Bouchard. I live at 1118 Meditation Loop. And they mentioned studies for traffic and the impact on neighborhoods. I don't believe any study would facilitate our situation in our neighborhood. If you all have been over there, or if you would like to go over there, they're talking from Herbert Street onto Old Hammock, okay? And as everybody else has said, it's a narrow street, but the traffic patterns that they use can't fit the situation in our neighborhood, especially with the new development going on the other side of Herbert Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much. Okay, yeah. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Commission members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. One of the things that they're asking you to do is to allow you, or allow them, to put a larger footprint on each lot. And the rationale is that they're going to create all this open space to make up for that lost space. And when you look at the planning, between the buffer zone, drainage areas, impacted wetlands, and the wet retention pond, there is no common area, common open space that the people could use. So, if you're talking about increasing, if they want to do anything, they're going to have to go somewhere else to do it. But, and then they're talking about a 10-foot berm around that pond. And that just sounds incredible to me. 10 foot? So I don't think it can support, 13 or 14 townhouses. I would say, maybe 6 or 7, but beyond that, that's all you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everyone from the public? Yes, sir. Come on up. Give me your name and your address, please.
My name is Brian Deaton. I live at 1123 Meditation Loop. I just wanted to make one point. I think our neighborhood is unique in Port Orange, and that it's right in the middle of town, but it feels like it's out in the woods. We have lots of animals. I can hear owls from my porch. And I think if this development goes on, it'll completely change how the neighborhood is. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to open it again.
get somebody-
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Mike Peterson, 1139 Herbert Street. One thing in regards to those owls, when we moved in, we understood that the street lights on that street, there basically isn't any. Our understanding was that that was due to the owls nesting and that they needed that for their protection and their well-being. I don't know if that's still the case, but I do know that, like he said, there's owls that live back there. There's tons of other species. It would be a shame to lose this land and this green space to our community. It's something that there isn't very much of anywhere, and I understand they want to donate some of that out somewhere else, but that doesn't benefit us. That's, we're going to wind up paving over everything. It's not something that I like to see. I do understand something will probably have to go there. If, to your point, John, you said that you want to try to match the look and feel of the neighborhood that's currently there. I don't think townhomes does that at all. It doesn't reflect the neighborhood at all. If anything had to go there, a single family home would be fine. I would like to see it turned into something else that's more beneficial to the community. And I won't go back over all the traffic problems, but yeah, there's traffic problems.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much. Before I prematurely think anybody else, are we good? Oh, well, we'll definitely invite you back in here. I'm going to ask the commissioners if they have any you have any comments that you want to do before the applicant comes back up that you might want to.
I just have a comment mainly to you guys that you're talking about the green space and stuff, and I'm with you 100%. But you also have to understand something has to go here. We can't keep them from selling their property because then we would get in trouble. So something's gonna go there, like I think Newton said earlier, it's just a matter of picking what has the least impact.
You can, guys, can't do that.
So I just want you guys to understand that that's kind of the position we're in, is picking the lesser of the evils.
Bo, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I just would refer to Mr. Posey's comment about the alternative in the event this doesn't get approved. And, you know, it seems that would be a lesser desired destination, but, you know, it's a tough decision, you know. That's all I have.
Tom?
Well, if we're going to get in as part of the discussion, I understand what you're saying there. We've had these discussions a lot of times with a lot of projects, a lot of properties where you say, well, it's zoned for this now, but they're coming in with something that's going to be less dense or better, whatever it might be. It's a false premise, though. The market drives what's going to be there, or what could be there. So if the property owner right now is saying, well, gee, I think the market is really preferring that we build townhomes, I could sell townhomes there instead of selling ALF beds, they're going to go for the townhome. So I don't think there's an either or on those two items right now. It doesn't mean if we don't do this, it doesn't mean we're going to get an ALF absolutely.
Well, that's valuable property there. That's a great location.
And they won't sell it.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, whether you can put in an ALF there, does it make sense? But I don't know. The market drives that. So right now, the market is saying he would prefer to do townhomes there.
Well,
but it doesn't mean we're going to get an ALF if we don't do this.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that.
You good, Tom?
Please hold your comments.
Please, guys,
Unless you want to
you do not have, you're not up on the podium. We cannot hear you. We're on a mic. We're recording everything.
So we're going to have.
Well, we're going to open. I wanted an exchange of information from them, and then us to get our ideas, and then the applicant again, and then we'll. I just want everyone to be put at ease that we've covered this material properly. Newton, you have anything else you want to add after you heard the public comments?
I just restate and add to a little bit. I mean, the owls, the wildlife, the woods, the trees, something is going to go there. Somebody is going to build something there. If it's this developer, it's this developer. If they get approval and they build townhomes, they're going to have townhomes. If they don't, them or somebody else can come in there and build a nursing home or an assisted living facility. Something's going to happen. And in looking at the housing shortage that we have, not just in Port Orange, in the nation, the state, everywhere, there's a big desire for housing that's driving that. There's also a lot of facilities going in, assisted living, nursing home, full-on nursing care facilities going in throughout our community. One or the other is going to happen. I particularly think that these townhomes are probably going to be less impactful to you than a facility that's really an industrial facility, a commercial facility that's going to have service people coming and going all days and all days of the week and all nights and day. So those are the two things that we have to choose from. There isn't a third option and there isn't a no option. So that's what we're debating here, is one or the other.
Lance?
Well, I mean, I think this is a situation where, and this is again, I knew Mr. Bennett. You know, I knew this thing way back when it was being built, and what you have here is the timing of it is couldn't be worse. Mm-hmm. Because you've had people who have lived on that street for 30 years, and that particular street is dangerous. That whole little neighborhood's tight. You know what I mean? It just, and again, I get it. Yeah, there's a piece of property back there, but at the same token, I don't believe Herbert Street can handle another car. Period. I just don't see how we can put any more stress on that road and this particular area. When you're within a half a mile of that school, you can't move for hours on end, and I get it. And again, we say, yeah, there's something going to go there. Obviously, we can make it as more stringent as possible. I think the townhomes are the least impact, like Newton said, but at the same time, I don't see how you can put another car on Herbert Street. Now, I don't know if we have fair share going on in this thing, if there's fair share and where it's at, but I can assure you, it's not gonna affect this area. It might be, you know, Dunlawton and Nova or wherever the fair share is within that loop, but it's not gonna help this area. This area right here is, it can't handle another car, unfortunately, I get it. And again, you know, yeah, if something goes there, it's gotta be the least impactful. I think these townhomes are the least impactful, but at the same time, I don't know how you can put another car on Herbert Street and say we did a good job. So.
How you fix Herbert Street to make it any better?
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, you good? To add to them, and I trust me, if anyone knows that property, invested time on the research of this property, I have. What I have learned talking to you, and I remember Brian, you remember we spoke? Well, when we were trying to talk about developing, they're very protective of the property. They like the natural look. And when a group of people are going to come in here and it's a beautiful, undisturbed, wooded area, that they probably would prefer to keep it that way if they had a choice. Yep. But unfortunately, it's owned by someone, and this is a business. And it's zoned for something. So if you're impacting the owls or anything like that, if the property is going to be cleared, it'll either be from the contractor that's building you a nursing assisted facilities or the townhomes. So the animal situation, and again, we do relocation programs with the gopher turtles, and things have to be surveyed for protected wetlands of that nature. Also, security. You were talking about your concern about the abandoned nursing home that is a magnet for mischief, and having another community there, family community, will add more eyes, more ability to be able to determine and keep an eye on things from a safer perspective. And the stormwater runoff, when we first approached that property and we had a city meeting, the city they didn't have paperwork on that area. It was so old. They had to go out there and research it. And when they discovered this area, that area right now, as far as water retention, it's not serving you guys anything. So the new development and the mitigation that's doing is actually most likely going to improve conditions in one way or another, because right now the storm water is only affecting that pond area. It's not helping you guys at all. So this is a win-win for you guys. And as far as you interested in having one person buy all this property for a large amount of money, spending money on attorney fees and engineering, and you think that he's going to only put one house on it, that's just not a feasible situation when this person's a developer. He wants to do something, he does want to make a profit. And you have been living in an environment that's been zoned assisted living facility for a long time, that has one that personally, if I have children, I'm more worried about what's going on at night. If you have a teenager that's walking a dog at night and you're walking them down that road where they're having problems and it's dark area, just as one of your residents had pointed out, I think the new development will improve the safety and the lighting, and it would cause less of a concern, because I walked around there and it is a dark spot and it is a scary area. And quite honestly, I would have probably considered drastic steps to renovate that from the ground up, because it's not a pretty, that's an eyesore. That is an eyesore for your community. That abandoned home, the nursing home, that's an eyesore. So with all that being said, and you put things, which is the lesser of two evils? You're trying to figure out, is it going to be one type of development or the other? The traffic's still an issue. We have traffic on Taylor Road. That's a problem with the schools. We have traffic with your location, and again, you're saying you had to wait 2 hours in the rain. Well, can you imagine somebody trying to come in, nursing with an ambulance, and they're trying to take someone to a hospital, life or death, and they're stuck in that I'd rather have somebody late for school in a car than someone in an ambulance in an assisted living facility trying to go to a medical attention. So I'm just letting you know these, you know, these are concerns in the whole, and you just gotta weigh things out, okay? Applicant?
I just wanted to briefly mention a couple of things that I heard that were, I want to give them a little more reassurance because I spoke with a few prior to this meeting, and, I will put on the record, I promise to meet with you again. I want to work with you. I want to make this the best community we can for them. Partly because we want to be a good neighbor. Besides the fact that I do represent a developer, there's a common courtesy to being a good neighbor. And if there's ways that I can help them, then I'm happy to. And so I've promised them that I'll meet with them again. That is no problem, and I'm happy to. So I at least want to put that on the record, so when this does come back, because it has to go to council, there is a record of that. The other things that I just wanted to briefly mention is that, the berm is not 10 feet. It's, slightly elevated and almost flush, and it's so the water flows in the correct directions. That's simply what it is. We're not clear cutting the property. All the open space, I have no interest in destroying the trees or moving trees from buffers. Not a problem. And I just want to reassure them that, the two that were described in the staff report were the specimens and the historic that were identified. It wasn't the trees were being all cut, and that's what you're left with. So, just wanted to put that on the record. And otherwise, I'm here to help. I want to help them. I want to help try to bridge this gap because it's a tough situation. You're in a no-win situation, and I get that. But if there's a way I can assist with that process, then that's what I'm here to do.
Right. It's well noted.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? What about the 10-foot berm?
It's not 10 foot. It's just slightly elevated.
Is it 10 foot wide?
And I think that may be it. It's 10 foot wide, but it's not
10 foot
right.
tall.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That's the confusion.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Bo, are you good?
It's highly subjective, what we're going to do here.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and it's actually boils down to a crapshoot. If this doesn't get approved, then it's open, to a lot of possibilities. And I sympathize with the people that live there, but it may turn out to be a good thing after all. So that's all I can say.
Are we good for a motion now, or does any commissioners?
Can I ask Mr. Posey one more question?
Yeah.
One of the concerns of the residents was the lighting, that there's no street lights in there. As part of this development, are street lights required?
We're required. I don't know offhand, but I'm happy to assist with that. That's not a problem. Streetlights make sense from my perspective. And
You're not paying for it.
Well, no, we'd have to.
You're speaking for your applicant?
Well, again, if there's streetlights that are required, we have to do it. That's not a problem. And I'm getting conflicting messages whether I'm trying to preserve the owls versus whether I'm trying to put streetlights. But again, I want to do what's best for them. If streetlights is the issue, I'm happy to find the solution. How do we get streetlights in this community? Not a problem. There's an HOA. There's ways to do that, and I'm happy to work towards that.
Okay. All right.
That's something I would like to see that could help.
Yeah, we'll explore those options.
address
Not a
that.
problem.
And if there's, many of the owls are protected species anyhow, so.
Has this gone through any type of engineering yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so the engineer, street light option, okay?
I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, all right. All right, any commissioners have anything to say?
Penelope Cruz, Planning. Just for clarification of a legal document that's going with this PUD, they have the authority to install a street light on their property.
Right.
We're not speaking about addressing street lights off-site, correct?
That makes sense.
We can speak to Public Works. We can speak to Public Works about
But you got a
fixing.
blind curve here too, you know what I mean? You got a dark blind curve. That's where the street light is.
I've never been in there at night.
Is that Department of DOT for those lights in that area? Or is it a private road?
There is a light there, but it's about 50 feet from it. I mean, there's nowhere to put a light on that curve.
Well,
I mean, where the houses are and where the property is, it's just.
And and that's the commitment I want to make here, that we want to look at it, we want to make it better, we want to solve the problem.
Okay.
You know, I can't necessarily control what happens off-site, but I'm happy to be a catalyst to make it happen.
No, that's,
So.
yeah, it's the best way to
That's
work.
the most I can expect.
Yes.
And
Yep.
the most is what I expect, so.
I've seen situations where developers did not talk to the adjacent property owners, and they just did whatever they wanted, and it was a big surprise, and it just popped up.
Well, they have to do it.
The fact that you're currently very aggressively trying to work together to come to an understanding is good. And this is what we've been trying to do for the past years, and it is working very well. And so, with that, I'm going to make a motion.
John, you have another.
Oh, we have, okay, again, remember, no repeated material, come on up. Okay, name and address.
Laurel Bouchard, 1118 Meditation Loop. Thank you for 30 seconds. Is there any way to reduce the number of townhomes in this request instead of 13, which is 3 buildings? They want 1 building 4, 1 building 4, 1 building with 5. Is there any way to approve this and reduce the number of townhomes in this request?
That's not for this meeting.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
If you were going to talk to your council people, because they're going to see this again.
Okay.
That's where I would go.
Okay, because I'm totally in agreement with you guys. Just wanted to know
Okay.
where that
No,
avenue
you,
was.
You
Thank
brought
you.
up some valid points that I wrote down, so I appreciate your input.
All right, thank you so very much. Thank you.
Hi, my name is April Blowers. I live at 1148 Meditation Loop. I want to stress the issue about an ALF. I'm a health and wellness director, so I've been in ALFs. I understand where y'all are coming from. Traffic for an ALF is not that much. Yes, we have maybe 2, depending on the ALF size, maybe 3 employees during the day. We have 1, again, depending on the size, maybe 2 at nighttime. As for having doctors, professionals, and that coming in, that may be twice a week, maybe, depending on the residents' needs. Second of all, you're talking about having food coming in, anything like that. That's once a month. So the traffic for that is not that extravagant. The sore eye that we have in the back of our building or neighborhood is because the people don't know how to market that. Nobody knows we're back there. I've had a lot of people go, oh, there's a neighborhood in there? Yeah, there's a neighborhood in there, believe it or not. So if they can't market it, it ain't going nowhere and it's going to be abandoned. So again, it will not be that much traffic if we have an ALF sitting back there. We all want an ALF. We don't want the 13 townhomes buildings. And we understand that something's got to go there. So that's why we all come to an agreement on maybe an ALF. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone good? Okay, good. I'd like to hear a motion.
You know, before we get to that,
Oh.
so, hey, I want to cover this.
I
So,
spoke too soon that this was going to be a fast meeting.
Well, no, I knew this was going to happen
No.
when I saw the agenda. Go ahead. Jeff.
we've had these similar projects come to us before, trying to put these townhome projects in, single family, attached, whatever you want to call them. And if we want to look for the best project for the city, for the community, we're looking for what fits best and what helps the city and the neighborhood. And usually I can accept a couple of things that I don't like to vote for, which would be taking out a historic tree. Okay, I get that if we get a better project. Impacting wetlands. Okay, if we get a better project. No parkage in there, and we've had projects where people complain afterwards that it's not a city street, but the city approved this street, and there's plenty of cars and people can't get through. And then just the fact that sidewalks don't go in. I like sidewalks. Sidewalks are important for a neighborhood. So when you take all 4 of these items together and you balance that with what you're getting, I'm just not seeing that it's a great project. Now you can do your motion.
I'm sorry? Okay.
Thanks.
We good? All right.
Is there
I'd like
one question. Is there a POA in your neighborhood? Do you guys have a homeowners association?
HOA. Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Okay. That's all.
I'm afraid to say it. All right.
Try it.
I'm going to go for a motion.
I get stuck with it, I guess. Move to approve case number 20-4000005.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, can I get a roll?
Maria Mills Benet.
No.
Bo Bofamy.
Yes.
Tom Jordan.
No.
Lance Green.
No.
Newton White.
No.
Chair John Junko.
Yes. All right, it's a no. Let's move on to the next case. And we're going to have a staff presenting PowerPoint overview of revisions, community development. I thought I was going to see Wayne do a presentation.
I'm not on the payroll yet. That's above his pay grade now.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Good?
Yep.
All right, Tim Bourbon, Community Development. I want to give a presentation on some proposed changes we're making to the sign code, which you will be seeing next month as a actual LDC amendment voting item. This is basically just a brief overview of kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it. To some of you that have already heard this or seen it from the council meeting a few weeks ago, I apologize having to sit through it again. Some of us got to hear it today, so sorry, Tom, you got to hear it again. So basically, the intent comes from purposes. There's a Supreme Court hearing between the town of Reed versus town of Gilbert, which said that basically you have to shift your regulations to be content neutral, not content based. Content based is basically where we say grand opening sign can be 8 square feet and up for 15 days, but a yard sale sign could be 2 square feet for 15 days. A real estate sign, different regulations for different types of sign. You can't do that. You got to basically be consistent across the board, and that's the main focus of what we're going through our code to review. Our temporary sign restrictions, just for example, are about 6 to 7 pages of various different requirements for different types of temporary signs. We have to basically amend that to make that content neutral, which we're doing here. While we're in there, we're also removing some conflicting and unclear language. This makes it easier for the sign contractors, also residents, business owners to read our sign, and also too for staff for interpretation. You know, this code will go into place, and 5, 10, 15 years from now, there will be staff interpreting that. Sometimes when you have a lot of word definitions and text then versus pictures or graphics, the interpretation kind of get lost over the years. And the use of pictures is very helpful in terms of describing more of that word then. So we're looking to include that more. There's some areas of the city that need some more flexibility and creativity for the different types of signs that they have, mainly the Ridgewood corridor. It's right now, essentially you're using Dunlawton requirements on Ridgewood. Obviously the properties are a lot smaller, more condensed area. Also too, the businesses that are going there don't have the capital to spend a sign on, as you see something on Dunlawton there. So we've got some options that keep kind of the appearance aesthetically pleasing, but also provide some flexibility for those properties. And the last is to continue regulate signs based on the impact they can have positively and negative on the community character there, regarding mainly the temporary signs like feather flags, streamers. A lot of those signs that you see now, because they're allowed kind of those relaxed with the executive order due to the pandemic, making sure those maintained to be prohibited and starting that back up again. So that's the first part there. Kind of talked about the neutrals there, but pretty much this is what we're going to be doing. The content neutral regulations that we can apply to our signs now. It's going to be maximum size, height, maximum number on a parcel, building or structure, specific sign locations that we've talked about, the setbacks, the visual clearance, also in residential area lots, non-residential lots, making that distinction. Corridors, you can specify in specific corridors where certain signs are located on them. Also the materials, lighting, that's something that we could basically put in this code to regulate, and also the period of use, how long it can be posted, how long it can be on the subject property. Also maintenance and upkeep of sign, we're strengthening that portion of the code too, so it's easily enforceable and also understandable for both the client, the business, and also staff in terms of working on maintenance of signs and upkeep. Establishing clear requirements. This is a kind of example of some of the graphics that will go along with the text then. not only explaining requirements such as maximum height, sign clearance, the text area, but also description of some of the signs that are mentioned there, just to give examples of what we are basically essentially writing in words then. So you will be seeing more pictures and graphics in the sign code along with text then. Alternative options along Ridgewood Avenue and the Down Under, as we've mentioned, a lot smaller lots condensed there. So some of these signs you already see on Ridgewood Avenue, as a lot of that area was annexed in, but this would be allowed for kind of a post and panel sign there, basically essentially a decorative column, decorative post with the signboard in between. Also a hanging panel sign there on a post then. Essentially these will be for your smaller lots that don't have a lot of frontage, also not a lot of cost then, but it still gives that visibility at the access point along along Ridgewood Avenue. So these would be again 2 other sign options that would be proposed along the corridor, and that would be pretty much looking at anywhere south of Dunlawton Avenue to the bridge then is the main area there, and that kind of coincides with a lot of the incentives and items that we put there with Ridgewood targeted businesses, and a lot of work we're trying to do on Ridgewood to get that basically redeveloped and clean that area up kind of one property by property. We want to be able to also offer those businesses ample signage, and also not require them to kind of divert back to using temporary signage, feather flags, to get signage then. So that's kind of the balancing act that we're working on there, and some alternatives proposed there. Next would be consider sign options. Alternative, this would be citywide. One would be that we hear quite a bit about, and you see quite a bit out there, are your sandwich board or A-frame signs. Allowing those in front of the specific business, there would be requirements in terms of how far it can be from the front door, and also maintaining that the public access and ADA clearance requirements are met, so people can get in and out of that business and use this as a sign. This helps in terms of advertising specials and changes the business has when you're walking up to the door then. Projecting signs, these are kind of the areas where you see here. These are architecturally compatible. We see a lot of businesses wanting to do these types of signs, and this would be given another option as long as it's designed properly. Could be an architectural feature on those buildings there. One thing that kind of came out of the past year is the kind of the outdoor string lighting that we're starting to see on a lot of outdoor seating areas, that they've expanded that, and people are wanting to use that more often now. I think an example is Coastal Grill. They've got a outdoor seating area with the lighting then. This would basically pretty much free up that language, so it does permit that as long as it's a designated permitted outdoor seating area then. And then the last one would be the monument sign requirements. Right now, essentially we require the solid base. On the bottom, what you see at 99% of the signs along Dunlawton corridor. There's one at the Coastal Grill that has the columns. I believe that was possibly through a variance a while ago, but we want to allow that option for permanent signs to have kind of the column appearance similar to the Coastal Grill, and would be similar to that one here in the bottom here. This would just give another option for monument signs. Again, there would be the requirements to be decorative and being compatible with the building, but just another option that we get, and we do get quite a few questions or inquiries from commercial businesses looking to do a sign similar to that, and this would free that option up then. Electric message centers. Currently the code allows those for shopping centers right now, and also the gas station prices. The requirements that are in place are 10 to 12 years old, so as part of this code amendment, we're looking to clean those up and bring those, basically the technology up the past 10 years then. Also, there's a lot more advancements in technology that we'd be able to apply into the code requirements here in terms of automatic dimmers and reducing the brightness. That could be all automatic. Before, when our code was going through, those were all things that had to be essentially manually programmed in. Now they basically can be provided with that sign to ensure that that is not creating a nuisance then. So we're looking at that. We've also looked to get a lot of questions specifically along the Dunlawton corridor area and some of our higher commercial areas, as businesses want to incorporate a small sign area of the message board, even single tenants then, on their sign, so they're able to advertise single messages that they want to do, daily specials. I believe one kind of example is the Culver sign on Dunlawton that we approved as a variance here, where they kind of approve their ice cream of the day on there. That's what some of these businesses are looking for, just to have that special that might be for a week on there and change it versus the standard changeable copy. These are basically more appealing there. We've had quite a few questions and comments from businesses asking for that then. So we will be exploring that and bringing some options forward for that then. This could be something that's citywide, or it could be specific to corridors, such as the Dunlawton corridor, Nova corridor, Clyde Morris corridor. Those all could be written to the code, so it's only allowed in certain areas, keeping it away from residential, moving forward. I think this is kind of what we talked about. These are pretty much the majority of the existing codes that would remain on the message. The 60-second static panel, so it's not rotating every 5 seconds or blinking and flashing that way.
Right.
On those would be there. No animation. We'd also basically be putting better units of measure for light, and also some more requirements there in terms of what we talked about in terms of the illumination then, and improving the quality of the message center. I think when we looked at what we did 12 years ago, the standard pixel pitch, which is kind of how close the LED nodes are, standard was 16 millimeters. Now it's 8. So you can see technology has increased quite a bit then, and that's a better quality then. So it's something too that, on there then. The last item kind of is where we've got a lot of cleaning up to do is on our temporary signs, which we are kind of making those more to be kind of called small yard signs, large yard signs, or banners is the terminology you're going with. And essentially, the temporary signs will be condensed from about 6 to 7 pages of text into a code or to a chart about this size here to imply then. So just kind of going through a few items here. Just there is basically a small yard sign for any residential property. They'd be, maximum number could be 1 or 2 per lot then. We've got the required setbacks and heights, and the duration would be, there would be no set duration on how long that residential property can have that sign on there. There are maintenance requirements that they would have to maintain. And on the single family home sites, one thing that would basically be able to trump kind of our requirements in terms of reducing that number even further and maintenance requirements would be HOAs. There are a lot of HOAs that have more stricter requirements than this. Those would all apply here. This would be citywide then. We are also looking to kind of put a clause in there because we know at certain times of the year during elections people want more signs on their yard, rightfully so. So there would be a clause in here that at those specific time frames in the year, additional signs could be on the property. They could be for election purposes or they could not be for election purposes, but we would allow for those additional signs at that time of the year, and then they'd have to be removed within a certain time frame then. We addressed on the non-residential side too, banners. We have kind of not a specific requirement as to where the banners have to be attached on. That's why you see a lot of time banners attached between 2 trees, PVC pipes. This would require the banners to be attached to the front of the building, as they're truly expected basically be to advertise the special or grand opening there. Temporary sign covers, that would be also covered here, and kind of setting the standards for those types of signs on properties moving forward. And these are just some example of those temporary signs that we kind of talked about here. The banners here, the various types of small yard signs that could be any combination of those. And then on your larger yard signs for your commercial sites could be the coming soon or the contractor sign, which are usually the 32 square feet. And also on your larger sites, the that are for sale, your larger commercial sites, the large for sale signs there. So the sign types that we typically see won't change. It's just basically how we regulate them and how we kind of apply the codes for them and kind of restrict the number that has to be on there then. So in some cases, if you want to have your lawn care service on your residential property, but you also want to have a yard sale, you're going to have to pull lawn care service sign up, put your yard sale on, have that, and switch it out then. So it's not going to deprive people from having those temporary signs. They're just going to have to be kind of switching them out as they go around them. And this is just kind of what we were talking about, some options that, they're essentially each one of these pink squares is a single family home, so technically at any time they could have one small yard sign on their property, and that would be allowed then. There is provisions that we would have that would exempt the real estate signs. They would be able to be allowed during the sale of the property, the duration of the sale of the property. They would not count toward that one sign, but it would still allow the real estate signs to be on the property in addition to the one.
What about the open house signs?
That would be their one sign. Again, we gotta treat all properties the same, because if you let 5 open house signs, you gotta let 5 throughout all the other properties then, so.
Before you get too much further ahead, you had a 5-foot setback. Go back. 5-foot required setback on the small yard signs.
Right.
From the property line.
For the property line.
Yeah.
So 5 foot from the property line, so you've got the parkage, the sidewalk, the property line, and then another 5 feet. The sign's gonna be back up in the middle of the yard.
So? That's where it's supposed to be.
Most of them that we see are there. This is again for the small yard sign, not the real estate signs.
Okay, the real estate
But basically,
signs.
for the most time, with the election signs, also too, keeping them off the off the sidewalk then is the one of the key too for safety reasons then. And single family homes, usually a 25 foot yard setback then, so there would be sufficient room for that sign to be within the property then.
But the real estate sign could still be out where it could be seen easily from the street.
It can't be in the right of way.
It could be at the property line.
Property line then, but that would basically be away from the away from the pavement then. It would be set back from the travel lane.
Yeah, well, currently at the property line, which is, typically you have the road, the parkage, the sidewalk, and then the edge of the sidewalk is typically the property line right now.
Yes, I mean, basically with the real
So
estate
that
sign.
that would be fine for the real estate sign to be at the property line. It wouldn't have to be 5 feet back up in the yard.
Yeah, I mean, we could write that and make sure that the real estate signs are a little bit closer there, if that's the case then.
Just so they don't hang over the
But the
sidewalk.
key is basically that they can't be hanging over the sidewalk.
Yeah,
right
but
against the
absolutely,
sidewalk.
absolutely. That doesn't make sense. What
And
I'm-
when
You push the edge.
And when we measure, and we've
Yeah, we
gone
put
out,
them right out there in the parkage.
and for the most part, when we've gone out and measured real estate signs throughout a number of communities there, they are sitting back usually 3 to 5 feet already then from the property line.
Not his.
No.
He bought all the old Waffle
Yeah, no,
House
they
signs.
have to be at the, they have to be, the sign's not hanging over the sidewalk, but it's as close as we can get it to where people can see it, because I mean, that's the idea is people driving on the street, you want them to see the sign, you're driving to find the house and you look for the sign, so you want it easy to be seen.
I think the residential sign is clear enough. What about commercial signs? You don't.
Commercial real estate?
Yeah, commercial real estate.
That'd be the same scenario then. They would be the certain size of the property would be able to have the larger, the 32 square foot sign.
Yeah.
It would be for the duration of the sale of the property then. So
And-
those would be those commercial ones would be 5 feet then.
Well,
Somewhere-
while we're on commercial, then what about, you have how many square foot is that monument sign out in front of a shopping center? Like 60 square foot monument signs, 48 or 60 square foot signs, and then the property owner always has a vacancy, and they constantly have a sign out, sometimes in front of the monument sign for the business. You know what I'm talking about, yeah?
But this is what we're trying to clean up right here. This is what we're cleaning up.
That's one of the things that gets me is, they have a,
Well, basically the code is written if there's something that's visibly, if it's for sale or for lease then. So if they have a space that they are constantly leasing, then the sign would be allowed to be there.
in addition to the already allowed commercial monument signs that's out in front of the business.
No.
Yes.
They would have to go on that panel for lease on the permanent sign.
They would be able to have if they have basically a lease, an area that's for lease or for rent in there, they are allowed to have a temporary sign to advertise the lease or the rental of the property then, in addition to the permanent monument sign for the tenants then.
You're talking about in the window, on the front of the property.
No, we're talking about out in front of the commercial businesses.
Nothing in the window.
There's window signage that would be allowed, that they could put that in there. I mean, I think that the intent is that, like we said, we have to be consistent across the board. And we also basically, the code intent is not to have sign pollution. And, if they have the real estate sign out at the front of the road, yes, they could have a sign at the window so the person knows that's the unit they're looking for. And we're trying to basically, minimize the amount of sign pollution that we have throughout these neighborhoods and throughout the commercial businesses.
And they would be permitted.
They'd have to be permitted.
Now, the residential do not have to be.
They do not have to be permanent for the residential, but the commercial they do, and they would require them to show that there's basically a unit for lease or for rent there.
Okay.
And typically we do not see them right next to the monument sign. They're usually off the side then, but that would be allowed for the commercial properties.
So that's another square footage of sign that's out there that's in a lot of cases, a large multi-tenant shopping center, that's almost a permanent given that there's a vacant
Right.
unit and there's a real estate sign out there.
Again, we have to be careful because we can't say real estate signs aren't allowed for this
Well,
unit or this type
that's
of
the
property, because then it could apply to every lot. Then I think you want real estate signs on residential.
I
So
do.
we've got to basically,
You gotta
stay
allow
within.
temporary signs or not allow temporary signs.
Yeah.
And you can't choose what the message is.
Oh, you've
I mean, you
heard
could
this
look at
before.
basically on the commercial side as to put a separation between if there's a permanent sign and a temporary sign. You can look at a separation between those so you can't have them right on top of each other. And there's also too the maintenance requirements that would be going into play a little bit stricter. Some of those ones that have been out there for quite a few they're basically the maintenance is not up to there then. So that would
That's what
at least
I mean.
require.
That's what I mean. It's like they
would
have
at least
another-
require it to basically be maintained, and they could have to install a new sign panel on there. But the appearance of the sign would basically be better than unmaintained sign then.
So, is there a fine associated with the violation?
It's code enforcement, right?
There's code enforcement, and I mean, they'd be asked to remove the sign, and it would basically go to the property owner to have that sign removed.
Okay.
Well, most of the time, if it's a yard sign, they'll just pull it off the yard.
Yeah, I mean, which signs are you talking about? Are you talking about the post, the 32 square foot real estate sign on a commercial one, or are you talking about a open house sign on the public right of way?
I'm talking about a residential sign in somebody's yard, or if a realtor chooses to put a larger sign in the front yard of the residence, which they do, we do.
Well, that would basically, if it is a larger sign than allowed by code, it would be code action on that property owner.
Oh, okay.
And I think we've talked with some of the real estate agents, and what we understand the typical sign with sign writers is about 6 square feet. So for a residential single family lot, we would basically making that our requirements then. So, and doing measurements of signs out there, 6 square feet seems to cover a majority of the residential retail signs that we have measured.
Okay.
Not, is there larger square foot that is used for single family lots than 6 square feet?
Yeah, in a desperate situation, yeah.
When Bo really needs to sell it.
You might see that big balloon out in the front yard.
Well,
Fine might be worth it.
Get a
Listen,
permit.
you
And an
real estate people
inflatable-
get
Yeah.
clarification later.
Inflatable
I'm
mannequin.
hungry. Let's go.
Might want to skip that section of the code when it comes up then.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Get the sign
That's
up.
all.
Yeah, and then kind of same thing on through the commercial sites then. It would be allowed the banner, essentially 60 days for a banner per tenant then to use in terms of however they feel necessary to advertise specials. They could do it 60 days consecutively or break it up. There'd still be a permit required. That was something council had given us input on, was to allow that for 60 days. So that would be allowed per tenant on their own property or their own tenant space then. And then also too, same would apply in terms of the number of yard signs for the commercial property. So if they wanted to put now hiring, those would be limited. We're looking at 2 options here, either to set aside a specific number per commercial property, such as 4 per commercial property, or go with 1 per tenant. Again, we're still looking into how that works with code enforcement and making sure that we have a code that's enforceable. So we're still working with them on what's the best case to allow there, which they can enforce. One of the concerns was if you allow 4 per property, a multi-tenant building, You might have that one tenant gets out there at 5 o'clock in the morning and puts all the four signs out there, and the next one comes and puts 4. Now you exceed the number. Who do you tell to remove the sign? If it's one per tenant, it's easy to see who's got more than one. And again, trying to be consistent across the different types of lots and uses that we have there. So these are all things that we're still going through and finalizing, and will be brought back to the board here next month. And also too, the way the code is being written and formatted, if it does go forward and a few months come by and we say, yeah, there needs to be a change, it needs to be either lowered or increased, the way this table format is, it's a lot easier to bring a code amendment back forward, because you're just affecting that one table versus worrying about a number of sections of text in the code. Temporary signs, basically that are prohibited now, will be maintained in that current code. This is kind of mainly your off-site premise signs. That's essentially yard signs, open house signs, business signs, offer signs that you see off-site, basically along the roadway and in the public right-of-way. That still would remain prohibited in this code. There's going to be signs in the right-of-way, except for those that are public signs, such as street lights, street signs. Those would still be allowed. Signs attached to utility poles, trees, and other public structures, and your feather flags and pennants and streamers would still remain prohibited. The reason why you see quite a few of those throughout the city is we have an executive order in place right now, basically that relaxed the sign code due to the pandemic, and that's why you see a number of feather flags and other types of signs in the city. So once this goes into place, there'll be an effective date on that, and that executive order will be removed. We will be shifting the city back to complying with the requirements that have historically been in place in the city of Port Orange.
What if you have a lost pet and you have a little 5-year-old stapling pictures of his little cat missing? You're just going to rip it off the pole and tell him you're in violation of code?
Yes, and use Facebook.
They're already in violation. That's already.
That was a quick answer.
Wow.
There's no sugarcoating that.
Facebook.
Made little Johnny Junko cry.
Yeah, I teared up on that answer. Okay, well, that was straight. No gray area. All right, you shut me down. All right, move along.
That's, and I think, like I said, the next step is to bring this forward to Planning Commission, which is good. The actual code amendment there, where you'll be able to, vote on that then, and make any, you'll get the actual amendment to look through, and we can make, comments and suggestions as it moves forward to council then the following month, hopefully in May then. So just wanted to give kind of a brief overview of it then. As we bring it forward next month, we'll be a little bit more detailed as to the specific changes. But just wanted to give you some of the things that we had talked with council about and were asked to look into and bring back before this group then. And
are you going to include examples of the type of collateral in the amendment so that we can see exactly, what the dimensions are, like you got here?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of,
right.
like items like this, that will be basically built into the code, and you'll see that actual code amendment there, so you will see all that then.
Okay.
Because sometimes, we show that in the staff report, but then it's not in the code. We want to kind of put that in the code then too, so you've got the graphic then to go along with it then. So you'll see all that then.
All right, thank you.
Me, questions?
Yeah, what about FSBO signs? For sale by owner signs they stick in their front yard. Those would be permitted under this code, right?
If it's basically for sale of property,
yeah,
that would be allowed there as long as the duration of
Bo's trying to slide in.
duration of
FSBO signs. FSBO signs.
again. Yeah, check with the HOA too, because they have other stricter requirements than our code does.
Right.
That's right.
Does anybody have any questions for him?
Oh,
I think you've already hit him with his man.
Speaking Lance's language.
does this affect the human sign spinner holder?
No. It's not permanent.
Right now, that's basically that it can occur as long as you're not holding it then.
As long as you're not sitting down.
Not holding, the sign is not touching the ground is what is on there then. So if, this could,
Leave that
going
lady
forward, you can make that call.
Protecting that lady.
You can, if you want to make that call, next month then?
No,
As the code
I-
form come there?
Don't-
That'll be something that'll be able to be,
No,
voted
I-
upon and recommended on council.
No, I asked if it affected.
She's a
I
local
didn't
celebrity
say,
now. You can't
I
take it
asked
away.
if it affected human-held
Okay.
signs.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't say, can we change it? I asked if it affected, and the answer was no, it does not. So,
Okay.
If
The
it
one
did,
problem-
you'd be the one to
yeah.
go tell her.
be clear.
Tim, I think this is a good opportunity. This has been something that's been in the making for a while, I think. I think we're a little bit out of date when it comes to our sign codes, and I think that some of them, and we don't need to keep throwing the Waffle House out there, but and as I go through other cities, what I see is, I see the same thing over and over and over. We're getting these new developments, and these companies are putting the same big sign out in front of the same, and the developments all look the same. I think this is an opportunity for us to maybe get some uniqueness to us, you know what I mean? I think it's a great idea to have the Ridgewood corridor, something completely different than the Dunlawton corridor. And we talked about the Nova corridor before, because we talked about some big blimpie or some big, we were gonna have a big statue or something on one building, or what was that? It wasn't Giuseppe's, was it? Well, they were gonna put something on the outside of the building.
Oh, yeah, that didn't go.
The big
Yeah.
boy.
Which one? Which one was it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same
was
token, I
Wayne's
think it's a chance for us to be, obviously, Ridgewood's gonna be challenged, and that, we need to be flexible when it comes to US 1 from this point forward, to make it viable. Dunlawton, we pretty much set the bed on what we've got there, and we need to, again, but I think the bigger the signs, I don't think are better. I think maybe something a little more unique, something more visual than what we're just stuffing up there, which is the same, just like this apartment complex is a 9x9 sign over and over and over. I think it's a chance for us to maybe get unique with some of these and to stand out a little bit more, you know what I mean? In the better.
So you're looking for essentially not so much the sign area, but basically just
look.
don't repeat the same sign over again.
Because we're doing it city after city after city. You can see these companies are coming in, and
think
may it be a
they've-
Publix who's got
Cookie
10
cutter
tenants,
signs.
and
I think
they're,
they've got the design, and it's just a matter of
I
just
get it.
they're
It's a
on it.
franchise.
So
I get it, but they're
you're
in
almost
our
looking for
city.
some way to incentivize them to get creative,
That's what, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us.
and that's
Plus
you're
smaller
thinking
signs
along
for smaller buildings.
Dunlawton,
Yeah.
our commercial corridors to get creative in terms
Yeah.
of the sign design.
Again, I go back, I don't believe that the Waffle House sign was appropriate for that building. It's a 12-seat restaurant that had just the same size sign as the Publix across the street. That's not right proportionally.
You're
Well,
not
you're
asking.
talking size though now. You're
Both.
not talking unique.
Well, that's the first thing
Yeah.
on there was
That's what
size
I'm
and,
saying.
Yeah.
size and
Size
square footage
appropriate.
is the very
Well,
first
to
thing.
basically
Size and
that we
height.
can regulate then. So
Right.
you can basically sign 8 feet tall, 10
But
feet
you
tall.
look at the
Right.
Culver sign, and the Culver sign is cool. You know what I mean? That little stretch, those signs are cool. They're smaller, now, granted, they got the little yard out front to give them a little more exposure, but those things are unique, and that Culver's is unique. You know what I mean? The Waffle House is not unique. So that sign just, sorry, Tom, your favorite place. That's why it's out of business. But
I was gonna say, now it's abandoned.
you want the all-you-can-eat, but anyway. But no, I think it's a good opportunity, especially when it comes to Ridgewood. We're really gonna have to be flexible when it comes to Ridgewood. We know that coming up.
I'm glad to see regulating the message board signs, the LED light
Yeah.
signs, and kind of getting them to
We're
tone down.
modernizing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we're only
it makes
12
sense.
years behind the technology.
It's happening.
But I think this is gonna be a good thing in the making, Tim. I know it's gonna be
Yeah.
a lot of work, and to get it all. Can we
Yeah.
get it somewhat early before next meeting?
Like
I mean, I know
Friday before.
Is that,
Friday
okay? All right, just checking.
Ah.
You know I'm going through it with a fine tooth comb.
Do you want the
I'm
packet
chair of that committee.
hand delivered to your house too?
Maybe we'll hand deliver that one.
Thank you.
We'll have Penny send 2 emails on that one.
I mean, those examples that you gave in the presentation, all those signs, especially the single business ones, they're beautiful signs. It makes you remember, like, it looks like a little St. Augustine, cobblestone street with all the hanging signs. Those are nice. I mean, they're very appealing, and they're very, I don't know, they're not an eyesore, that's for sure.
They're unique.
And all
Yeah.
of them are unique. They have a shape, they have a color. They obviously were custom made for that business.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. Do you want to see franchise signs going through? It's like going through the same city over and over and over again. You're in a loop. But, didn't we have control? And we did. We enforced color controls on franchises, like I think Wendy's had to apply with certain color schemes to match our city.
We can on the corporate kind of colors there. They still have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
We have you know kind of the architecture requirements on the materials and stuff like that.
Materials, okay.
Yeah,
and that worked good. That worked good.
But not in colors.
No.
Yeah, but I understand the outside, the exterior look, and we do have a lot of influence on that. But
in terms
overall,
of the
it's-
corporate, you know, a lot of times, you know, when we have the business come in, we're able to work with them to basically, you know,
Right.
like they bring in, you know, this is the building size. I think the KFC was one example.
Mhm.
They brought us in what was shown on all the other KFCs being redone. We said, you know, in Port Orange, you have to change it up a little bit more to be, you know, more toward Port Orange, and we got alternative design that way. So that's typically how the staff approaches those buildings there
creative.
to, you know, get
But
something.
you
that-
also had a particular restaurant, I won't mention any names, that they didn't want to bend to Port Orange's look, and you know what? They didn't come to Port Orange. There you go. You know what I mean? You're going to conform with what we've set aside, or it's your choice. You don't have to come to Port Orange. You're opting to come to Port Orange.
It's just tough in the corporate world, you know, when they have a sign, a legend, when they have a corporate logo, it's tough for them to make that change, you know, to accommodate every little city because they don't like to go.
Yeah, but I think we've got I mean, the planning staff is real good with knowing basically what corporate ideas they need to have there, and also bringing it to kind of what Port Orange is expecting then. And I mean, I don't think we've had an issue with any, you know, corporate industry that basically has come in here in terms of basically getting them through a good product, where they're both, you know, they understand, yeah, they do make changes to comply with Port Orange, but we are also still, you know, knowing that they want to have that corporate identity and keep that through the design then.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, thank you.
I'm
we're,
hungry.
we're all probably on board with this. We knew it was coming, and it's definitely a move for the better. So,
Yeah, Coral Springs did that years ago.
does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Tim.
No, thank you.
No, are we good? We don't have to do it. This is just a presentation, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to update
Okay.
you so you're prepared for
Call
what's
that
coming
a
next
land
week.
You
screen.
want to make a
Next
motion
green
for Tim
ordinance?
to leave this podium?
Can we make a motion to go to dinner?
Well,
Second.
we're going to be doing commissioner comments shortly.
Oh gosh, help me.
Thank you.
All right, stay there.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Nobody has questions for Tim?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, so commissioner comments. You want to go with Maria?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry. Okay, Bo.
I'm good. No, seriously.
Maria's hungry.
Okay, Tom.
No, thank you, staff. Great job as always.
I'll
Thank
get
you.
between Maria and the buffet.
Okay.
Is
No
Dairy Queen
buffet
coming to
for
Port
me.
Orange?
Yes.
Where?
Next to the Walmart neighborhood market on by Morris and Madeline.
Oh, it's the one that's already started?
Yes,
That's-
the wood frame
okay,
construction
Yeah, okay,
building.
is that what I saw there today? Okay. Good deal. I need to know. I gotta set my GPS.
Yeah.
We'll invite you to the final walkthrough if you want to.
Please.
I got
He would
one,
love that.
I have one minor, I've been pumping a couple of permits, so I've been going through the city hall a lot. And the thing that kind of caught me off guard is how our wonderful tunnel is deteriorating into the city hall. It's held together by black Gorilla Tape. There's scuffs on the wall.
That's the Flex Seal family of steel.
The anti-skid coating is peeled away. There's stickers on the windows. The plexiglass is cracked. And is there anything?
Yes.
Are we working
Our
on?
public works staff, I believe, a few weeks ago presented at a city council workshop a various number of options on that. I can get you the link to that video then.
Okay. Well,
so
I
you
was
can see
curious,
that then.
'cause-
But yeah, public works is on that, and they are working on options to basically correct that and improve that situation then.
Perfect. Okay.
Nice.
There you go.
That's the answer.
I obviously
Excellent.
haven't been in there in a while.
Oh no, it's looking rough. It's looking rough. Anyway, any commissioner comments other than that? Me? Staff comments? No? Public comments? Okay.
Bless you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion.
The second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Yay.
Oh, and